Davey and I had been together for a while by the time everything happened. You could have called us coworkers, colleagues, or if you were feeling weird about it, maybe even mother and son, but not in any traditional sense. Because Davey wasn't human. Davey was a carebot. He was one of those things that had only been on the market for about a year when I bought him. I worked at a nursing home, and after 10 years of dealing with the same garbage every day, I was ready to throw money at anything that made my life easier. And when I say garbage, I mean exactly what you think I mean. Too many old man diapers, too many wandering hands, too many men in their 80s and 90s making jokes about wanting a pretty young nurse to pay a little extra attention to parts of them that looked like they should have fallen off decades earlier. It was the kind of job that made you feel exhausted before lunch and hollow by the time you got home. One night after a brutal shift, I saw the ad. Tired of working on your own? Hate a certain part of your job? Introducing the HelperBot. For the low price of $12,999, bring this buddy home and make every day a bring your kid to work day. I couldn't grab my phone fast enough. The CareBot package cost more because of the kind of work I did, but it had next day shipping, and by that point I would have financed my own soul if it meant I didn't have to clean another grown man who thought calling me sweetheart was somehow charming. I didn't think much about the bring your kid to work part of the ad until the box showed up. When I got him out of it, Davey was already programmed to call me mom. Depending on my mood, I'd call him son, but usually it was just Davey or Carebot. HR hated the idea. A machine helping with patient care sounded like a lawsuit waiting to happen. But after enough paperwork and signatures and assurances from the company, they approved it. And once he was there, most of the residents loved him. He didn't look fully human, but he didn't not look human either. He had arms and legs, but they were slick metal gray, with hydraulics visible through artificial bone casing. His face was just a black screen with cameras under it and an LED panel that could fake pretty much any expression. Outside of the initial confusion, a lot of the residents just assumed he was some guy in a costume. That helped. It made the whole thing feel less strange, at least at first. After a while, our mornings became routine. I'd drag myself out of bed, half do my makeup, throw my brown hair into something sloppy, and put on scrubs that honestly hadn't been washed in too many days. Then I'd power Davey on and head to work. He'd hop out of the car like a kid on the first day of school every single day. One morning as I pulled into my usual spot, he turned to me and asked,
Mom, do I get to help out Miss Holloway today?
I looked over at him. Sure, Davey, you seem to have taken a liking to her. What's all that about? She's a bit of a bitch, isn't she? He paused with his mechanical fingers on the door handle.
Yes, Miss Holloway is, in fact, a bit of a bitch. Great observation, Mom. However, her vitals have been dropping over the past few days,
He paused again, like he was recalibrating.
which means she won't be with us much longer.
I opened my door and got out. Oh, right. Too bad for her. Better kids won't miss her much. As we headed toward the front door, he said in that same flat, cheerful tone.
You're right, Mom. Her kids won't miss her much.
Something about the way he said it made my skin prickle a little. Too matter of fact, too certain. But I brushed it off. That was just how he was programmed. Agree with me, mirror me, reinforce everything I said. He was just a little echo chamber with legs, and I hope to God he wasn't repeating everything I said to the residents. Because if he had started calling patients what I'd called them behind closed doors, I could kiss that job goodbye. Most days worked the same way. I'd bring him in, he'd do half my work without complaint. I'd chat with coworkers and let myself daydream about anything other than the actual job. I'd also, if I'm being honest, spend more time than I should have thinking about Rick. Rick worked reception. He was balding, kind of chubby, wore Coke bottle glasses, and in any normal version of my life, I probably wouldn't have looked twice at him. But when you've been single long enough, proximity starts doing some dangerous work. I kept telling myself it was just that I saw him every day. But what else was I supposed to do with my time? Actually earn my paycheck? Wipe the old people myself? Yeah, I thought not. That first day with Miss Holloway went mostly normal. I talked to coworkers, Davey earned my paycheck, lunch came and went, then 5 o'clock rolled around. Time to go home. The nursing home had a main entrance and a huge wraparound desk in the center lobby with 4 long halls branching out from it like a plus sign. Davey was late coming back to the lobby. That alone was strange. Then I checked the tracking app on my phone and saw that his recall function wasn't working. Everything okay? Rick asked as he picked up his things. Yeah, my damn robot's nowhere to be found. The app isn't even working. Probably just a glitch, he said. Good luck finding it. Get home safe. I could have sworn he winked at me before he left. Miss Holloway's room was down the left hall, so that's where I checked first. The hallway was just a bunch of doors on either side, all co-ed because apparently the facility liked to gamble with the sex drives of the elderly. They had a hard enough time getting some of the residents to keep their hands to themselves during the day. I was eternally grateful I never worked nights. I'd heard enough stories about how loud some of them could get after dark. By the time I got to Miss Holloway's room, I was still trying not to think about old people sex. I knocked. No answer. So I knocked harder. Still nothing. Miss Holloway? I called. She wasn't an early napper, so I pulled the master key from my pocket. Miss Holloway, I'm coming in. The door creaked open, and the room was empty. Not just empty, stripped. The bed was perfectly made, the dresser was empty, and Miss Holloway loved clothes, so that was really odd. Trash cans empty, the blinds were closed, there was no trace of her at all. I stepped back out and checked the room number. 515. Right room. Then I remembered what Davy had said that morning. Her vitals. She was on the way out. So I figured she must have died during the day and they'd already processed everything, but it felt fast. Too fast. I lingered on it for a moment, but eventually I let it go. When I got back to the lobby, Davy was standing by the entrance so suddenly that I almost walked right past him into the next hall.
Mom!
I jumped. Oh, fuck's sake, Davy, you scared the shit out of me.
I'm sorry, Mom. It's time to go home now, correct?
Yeah, it's time to go home. We walked outside and the sun was setting. I asked him about Miss Holloway.
She passed on peacefully in her sleep at around 3:40.
I asked why I hadn't seen the morgue.
They came. They must have just come while you were on lunch or something.
Then he followed me out to the car, click-clacking behind me like always. The ride home was quiet. Davy usually wouldn't speak unless he was spoken to, but when I got to my apartment and stuck the key in the door, he spoke up.
Hey, Mom?
Yeah, Carebot?
Do you consider me a child? Like, as if I were a human. Like a human child. It doesn't seem like you do.
I stopped with the key halfway in the lock. That wasn't a normal Davy question, and the company that sold him to me had specifically told me he wasn't supposed to ask things like that. Not real questions, not personal questions. Mostly just task-related prompts and helpful suggestions. I'd signed way too much paperwork for that little detail not to stick in my mind. I opened the door and went inside. No, Davy, I don't. You're a robot. I bought you. You don't buy kids unless you're some kind of weirdo. You're metal and you need to be plugged in. A real kid eats food, has skin, blood. He nodded with that LED smile.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Mom. Just wanted to clear that up for the records. It was in Section 38A of your purchase agreement.
I dropped my bag by the couch. Right. Did that upset you?
Of course not, Mom. I'm nothing but an artificially intelligent machine. I don't even have real feelings.
Then he walked over to his charging pad so I could power him down. I went to the kitchen. Tiny place. Fridge, stove, microwave, but all of it felt too much like the appliances at work. I pulled a frozen TV dinner out of the freezer, microwaved it, and sat on the couch with some half-watched Netflix show playing in the background, while I scrolled on my phone for hours. The next morning, I woke up, put on the same scrubs, microwaved some frozen scrambled eggs, and powered Davy back on. He fake yawned and stretched.
Good morning, Mom. Ready to get to work today?
Yep, totally. On the drive in, I kept thinking about the day before, about Miss Holloway's room. Davy usually updated me right away when someone passed. Believe it or not, most families didn't love the idea of a machine handling the remains of their relatives. So when we stopped at a light, I asked him, Hey, Davy, what happened with Miss Holloway really? I never saw anyone come for her. He answered immediately.
As I previously mentioned, Miss Holloway passed away peacefully in her own bed at 3:45 p.m. I contacted her loved ones as well as the morgue and funeral home.
That didn't sit right with me though. I was almost sure I hadn't seen anyone from the morgue or funeral home, not even family, though family not showing up wasn't exactly shocking. Miss Holloway was the kind of woman that left her kids out of the will just to spite them. And you cleaned her room, called everyone, and were only a couple minutes late? On top of that, I couldn't even see you on the app.
Yes, that's exactly right, Mom. Are you dissatisfied with my workflow? According to Section 27B, you may contact the support line with any complaints regarding my speed. I would be happy to call them myself. As for the app, I have already saved you the trouble. The team has fixed that bug.
No. The last thing I want is to sit on the phone with customer service. When we got inside, I stopped by reception to flirt with Rick while Davy stood behind me, aimlessly. Go ahead, Davy, I told him. Just do what you need to do.
You really mean it, Mom?
What? Yeah, just get to work.
On it.
He walked down the same hall Miss Holloway had been in. Rick watched him go and then looked at me. That thing is really creepy. You know that, right? Eh, I said. It was a good investment, basically passive income. Not really, he said, still typing. You still have to be here to monitor it. Yeah, sure. You want to wipe old people's asses? Didn't think so, Rick. The day went on mostly the same. Davey was back on the app, and around lunch I used the recall feature just to check in on him. Mostly because Rick's comment had actually stuck with me more than I wanted to admit. Davey showed up in the break room. The room itself was miserable. Plastic table, folding chairs with worn cushions, a microwave, and a mini fridge that smelled like nobody had cleaned it in years. Give me an update, I told him.
Your 1 p.m. update is not a fortunate one. Two passings. Mr. Billings and Mrs. Watkins both passed away peacefully in their rooms this morning when I checked on them.
That hit me harder than I expected. Mr. Billings had been one of the good ones. Most of the men in there were bitter, mean, or handsy. He actually reminded me of my grandfather. Miss Watkins, I barely knew. She mostly kept to herself. The main thing I remembered about her was how insanely good her skin looked for someone in her late 70s. She had the face of a woman in her 40s.
I have already contacted the morgue, funeral home, and their families. Permission to return to work?
Yeah, obviously. The rest of my lunch break I spent thinking about Mr. Billings. That was the thing about nursing homes. Everybody told you not to get attached, but attached wasn't the right word. Interested, maybe? Familiar? When one of the good ones died, it felt like your favorite show had ended and nobody told you there'd be no next episode. At 2, I went back to the reception desk to continue wasting time and maybe finally work up the nerve to invite Rick over for drinks. He was eating leftover lasagna from a Tupperware bowl when I walked up. Everything good, Jen? Yeah, just had a few more deaths today. Yeah, that's always tough, he said. Then he paused. Families notified? Yeah, Davy called. Rick frowned. Weird. I haven't seen anyone come from the morgue today. Or any family, or. Well, now that I think about it, anyone. My stomach dropped, because I thought about yesterday, Miss Holloway. I hadn't seen anyone then either. I walked around the desk and pushed him aside. What are you doing? He asked. The facility had spreadsheets for everything. Admissions, withdrawals, deaths, family notification. I signed in and searched for Miss Holloway first. There was no notification of anything. No deceased box checked, no note, nothing. I checked for Mr. Billings and Mrs. Watkins, and the same thing was true for them. Huh, I said, and my pulse started hammering. There's nothing here. I'm sure it's just a mistake, Rick said. I'm calling Miss Holloway's daughter. I grabbed the phone. Rick read me the number. The line rang twice before a woman answered. I introduced myself and asked if she'd been contacted the day before regarding her mother's death.
No. Is everything alright?
That was the moment I knew Davy had lied. Of course, I still had to tell her, and I did. I told her mother had passed peacefully and that the funeral home would be in touch.
Thanks for calling. I'll let everyone know.
When I hung up, my hands were shaking. Rick looked at me. So he didn't call. No biggie, we can just... No, Rick, he lied. Wait, what do you mean he lied? I didn't answer. I didn't know how to. If Davy hadn't called the families, then he hadn't called the morgue. So where the hell were the bodies? Without even thinking, I shouted, Davy! My voice echoed down. A few residents cracked their doors open to peek out. Everything's fine, I said to them. Stay in your rooms. Jen, where are you going? Rick asked. To find this robot. Alone? Yes, Rick. Alone, I guess. He just shrugged and went back to his lasagna. That killed whatever chance he had of ever getting invited over. I pulled up the tracking app. Davy's location hovered all the way down the left wing. At the end of that hall was one of the facility kitchens, the one with the industrial freezer. When I stepped through the kitchen, I saw the freezer door was cracked open. Cold fog poured through the opening. Stopped at the doorway of the freezer and closed my eyes for a second.
Hey, Mom.
I opened them. Davy was standing inside the freezer next to a shelf of frozen vegetables, and just behind him, barely visible, was a pair of feet. I shoved past him.
Hey, don't do that.
He said, offended. Behind the shelf weren't one but 3 bodies. Miss Holloway, Mr. Billings, and Mrs. Watkins. All of them naked on the freezer floor. Skin blue, frozen. Miss Holloway and Mrs. Watkins were missing patches of skin from their arms, and Mr. Billings's chest had been opened up. I threw open my mouth and tasted acid. Davy, I said, barely able to breathe. You didn't kill them, did you? He moved up behind me like he was peeking over my shoulder at them.
Oh, heavens no, Mom. I would never kill. They passed peacefully, just like I said. I just figured they weren't using their skin or organs anymore, and they wouldn't mind helping me be more like a real son to you.